know, and
That's great.
I guess her philosophical mindset comes from my grandmother.
Right.
You know, I don't have kids, you know, but the simple fact that I'm going to push myself by the grace of God to be better and not depend on,
Right.
you know, exterior help. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Whenever you need help, you get help.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
But you don't sit there like a baby that stays on.
You don't depend on the help that you have not really earned for yourself. You show gratitude for it, first of all.
Do they?
Well,
you know,
I don't know. You tell me. I didn't grow up there.
Well, yeah, I did. I'm joking. I did. But that's just my
boy.
Yes, sir. That's my take on the welfare system and the food stamp system is, you know, the philosophy behind it.
It's a starter.
Well, the philosophy behind it was for good.
Right.
But then you got now a bunch of oppressed people, and I'm not just talking black people. There's blacks and whites and of all different ethnic groups that are part of this system.
You got a speech impediment, boy?
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
So you have lots of people who depend on welfare, but the idea isn't to depend on it. It's
a stepping stone.
Right. It's just exactly.
You know, or it's supposed to be a stepping stone. But I do find, and I'm going to say it, and I live in America, but I think the American government allows this.
Sure.
Instead of, okay, they're opposing certain things and changing certain things that can actually wait 4 or 5 years, and then they're not looking at the things that's actually hurting the economy.
Right.
You know, because these people sometimes aren't working. Yeah, they go back and spend the money they got from the government in the stores, but they're not producing enough to take care of the families the way they want to.
Right.
You know, and you're right. That's why you get these black parents. And look, I'm in law enforcement. I see it all the time. You know, they'll tell the kid, "You're black. You know, you're this, you're that." No, I mean, yes, they're black, but they're not oppressed.
They're not. Well, right. I think very few people on the group scale are oppressed in America. Like to the largest degree that that people who get really fired up about group identity politics and stuff and try to analyze everything at a surface group identity level, you know, the truth is simply power dynamics, like group versus group versus group, and whichever group is in power is the one that lacks virtue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think that's a shallow way to look at reality. I mean, if you look at even the last 400 years since slavery ended in this country, look at the last 30 years, 30 or 40 years, how much racism has just disappeared, you know? So look, to some degree, like we're designed as humans, like we were talking about earlier, to be tribal to some extent. So you're going to associate with groups that are similar to you in certain superficial ways, and that's fine. But for the most part, it's just a small, thin barrier that is broken at the tiniest and most subtle instance of you interacting with someone from another group.
Right.
So like I might be like 2% racist toward black people, but as soon as I meet another black person and have like even the slightest interaction with them, when they project to me that they're just another person like everyone else is, then that racism goes away completely.
So you're telling me that's how we became friends?
Exactly. No, but I really do believe that. I mean, you know, people who say that like white people are racist and there's nothing they can do about it, and that having a black friend doesn't mean that you're not racist. I think that's complete bollocks. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are white men who are married to black women who are condemned as racists when
I know two interracial.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
like what do you think you do?
Completely absurd.
what do you do every morning when you're having your coffee and you're sitting across the table from the person? Do you just like drink the coffee all angry and just like stare at them like, yeah, this'll show him that I'm not racist. This'll show him. Or do you actually love the person? Like, why'd you marry the person? Out of vindictiveness or because you love the person? I mean,
right.
Which is more likely? Let's put the question that way.
I know two interracial couples, and one of them I met in college, and when I tell you, I have never seen, and I'm gonna use racial terms here just to get my point across. I have never seen a white man love this black girl
like anyone has loved anyone ever.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm talking, he takes care of his wife, and they are married till this day.
Yeah.
You know, there's no racial
tensions
there.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to correct
one person and another person. And
right.
They can form a holy union like anyone else.
I want to correct myself. I know 3 interracial couples, and the second group is also from college.
Right.
Same concept or same mindset. And yeah, they're all Christian, and they all believe in God, but these 2 white men take care of them black girls.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not because they're black. It's because they love them.
And they're religious?
They're Baptist, yeah.
Are they conservative?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know one of the spouses is probably not.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that like I have not seen less racism anywhere. How am I going to put this? A church context in which there is ethnic diversity is the least racist place you can exist as a human being. And they tend to be conservative because most Christian denominations are pretty conservative, and their members take on certain conservative political beliefs because there's just a lot of overlap between an interpretation of the Christian faith that is founded in justice and the good, as I'll call it, and conservative ideals. You know, there's a lot of overlap there. So, for the sake of consistency in belief, people who are religious tend to be conservative politically.
Yeah.
And it's just funny how conservatives are labeled nowadays as ruthless racists who will never get over that, when it's just not the case at all, you know?
Let's be honest. Okay, so let's use me, since I can be the end of a joke.
Oh yeah.
So
you're a triple threat too.
I am a black guy.
Yeah.
I am conservative.
Yep.
Does that mean...
And you're religious. Yeah. You're a triple threat, man. That's what I'm saying.
Does that mean I wholeheartedly agree with everything that's going on in the country? Absolutely not. You know, but here or there,
and also,
whatever.
Does that mean that you're on such a tightly knit team within your church, within your position of blackness and maleness and conservativeness? Does that mean that you think exactly the same as all of those people who you share those jerseys with?
Britton, I don't see color.
I know.
You know,
that's my point.
You know, and for example, like, I'm this black guy, 30 years old, conservative, understand what's going on. I go to an all-white church.
Right, that's true.
Now, there have been times...
Well, now it's all white. It wasn't always that way.
It wasn't always that way. Wait, what are you saying?
Not when I went there.
Oh. But one of the things that I see is, okay, yeah, I've looked at... Let me try to find a church that is more diverse or more black people. It didn't happen.
It doesn't matter.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Now, I go to that church every Sunday I can that I'm not working, and those people, and I'm being racist again, those people do not show me any kind of hatred or racism whatsoever. No. They love me for who I am.
They love you for who you are and the competence you show as an elder and a member of the church. Because you are competent and knowledgeable, and you have a way of articulating your faith that is clear, and you do what church people do on a very high level, you know?
Yeah.
So that you've earned their respect as well, you know? And I think that's the point at the end of the day. Like, judging someone is perfectly fine if it's justified, right? And how should you judge people? I think based on the respect that they earn within a given realm of competence. So you're competent, you have merit, you've articulated yourself well, you've grown up in the church, and you've worked your way up the ladder to elder status. You know, youngest elder ever in the history of the church.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
No, and actually,
but anyway, doesn't disregard my point. That,
right.
Like, merit and competence are better ways of judging people than skin color. You know?
Yeah, and then when this is funny, at my grandmother's funeral, I was asked to be an elder, and to correct you, I didn't work myself up to the position,
sure,
if you will. It was something that was prayed upon and voted on by the church, XYZ. I got asked back in September-ish, October, somewhere in that time frame, if I wanted to be a deacon. And I was already a deacon, but the person that asked me got it wrong. And
what's a deacon in the Presbyterian Church? I didn't know that they had deacons.
Yeah, deacon in the Presbyterian Church basically are you caretakers.
Okay.
Or caregivers, I should say. And then the elders would be your administration.
Okay.
You know, just to kind of dumb it down a little bit. At my grandmother's funeral, my pastor announced that I would be the first black elder in the First Pres Church in Thibodaux ever.
Okay.
And the entire church, and you were at my grandmother's funeral, you heard the church.
Right.
Oh, wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
After
they got kind of hung up on the race thing.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there with my hand under my chin like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
You didn't even know that.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking about it.
I mean, you probably could have assumed that had it crossed your mind, but it didn't even cross your mind.
Yeah, it didn't.
Because you really don't see color, man.
No,
That's
I mean,
beautiful.
It's in political realm I see it, but
you
it's not.
You are hashtag blessed.
Hashtag. But yeah, so now that we went off on this tantrum off of philosophy and prayer, I want to try to draw us back in.
Thank you.
But all the stuff we said is relevant to what we're talking about. And
sure,
if people don't use critical thinking skills,
yeah,
we are screwed.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to cause our morals to do what I like to call a nosedive.
Right.
You know,
I think the greatest philosophers in history who wrote on morality would agree with that. A lot of the best philosophers tend to actually have some religious or at least a deeply spiritual background. Even Immanuel Kant, Immanuel Kant was a very dry philosopher, very systematic articulator of morals, and in his Foundations of the Metaphysics of Morals, a very thin, maybe 67-page book, which I studied on the graduate level for an entire semester, studying just this one small, thin book. And I saw so much overlap between his idea of the universal law, it's also called the categorical imperative, and the idea of God. There's so much overlap, it's unbelievable. The categorical imperative, I'm going to butcher it to try to summarize it because it is very complicated. But in general, it is an ideal to strive toward, to aim your actions toward. Your actions have intention, and you should do good for the sake of itself. And if it's for any other reason, whether it's selfish or otherwise, then it is not a genuine moral action. It has no moral worth, as he says. And he mentions very clearly in this book that the universal law or the categorical imperative is nothing more than an ideal. And when I started to think about that's up until that point, that was kind of in the back of my mind, you know, because I'm always trying to connect the dots. Like, okay, could he be, say, Christian? And that be consistent with everything else he's saying right now. And once he said that, I was like, right. This is a non-personified God that he's talking about. That's what the universal law is. And so I brought that up in a seminar, and there were a couple people who like nodded their head. They were like, yeah, like that makes sense. Happens that they came from a Christian background. Everyone else was like pretty atheistic and just kind of rejected the idea. But I don't think that there's really any getting away from that. If you can understand that God isn't simply some guy in the sky with a beard, then you can understand this. But even a lot of very smart atheists, but atheists nonetheless, get hung